Hey everyone! I recently bought a small bunch of dolls at the flea market again, and yeah, since secondhand dolls are usually not in a very good condition when you dig them out of their boxes, most of them need a little glow up. So in this video I want to dedicate myself to this Color Magic Enchantix Stella doll. Her hair is quite matted, but interestingly she still has her original hairstyle kind of recognizable. Well, luckily both her lashes and makeup are still perfectly fine, so I don't need to reapply or paint anything, which is good. And from the looks of it, she's only missing 2 small gauntlets. Her outfit looks very fragile and dainty, but it has apparently survived the rough conditions of the flea market box, so I'm very happy about that. I kind of like the shoes. They remind me of orange flavored jelly candies because they are so orange and semi-transparent. However, they also feel a bit fragile. I really don't know if they wouldn't rip if I tried to take them off. The great thing about the doll stand is that her wings are attached to it and that an electronic gadget has been integrated there. The way it is now, well, the way I bought it, it doesn't make any sound nor does anything light up. But from below and from the outside everything still looks fine. But I suspect that there is a high probability that we will have to deal with leaking batteries again. Ah yeah, and here you can see that the doll is from the year 2007 and was produced by Mattel. So she is 16 years old. So yeah, let's hope that the batteries won't be that old either. So the first thing that I'm trying to get working again is the doll stand. Before I unscrew anything, I turn the switch to off as a precaution. Because I expect everything to be full of battery acid, I made some space on my cupboard to lay out a piece of kitchen paper, and I also want to protect my hands. So that's why I put on a pair of gloves. And of course I need something to temporarily store the batteries before I take them to hazardous waste. The little blue cardboard box, which is actually just an empty box of hygiene wipes, has to be used for this. Luckily, the batteries don't even look that bad, but it's still important to look even at the battery compartment cover as well. The acid can also quickly stick to it. We even have a nice pink ribbon here to make it easier for us to maneuver the batteries out of the compartment. And shoot across the room. It looks like only one of the metallic contact spirals has been rusted because of the battery acid, and there's only a little bit of the acid in the battery compartment. Here you can see a blurry close-up of the rusty leaking battery that flew across the room. I was curious as to whether there might be something wrong with the electronics, so it could have been that the acid ran further through the spiral into the housing. And yeah, that it could have caused damage there. And because it's so easy to unscrew, I thought I'd take a look there too to see what it looks like there. But yes, everything looks okay. All cables are still soldered and I can't see any battery acid or anything like that. So I quickly screw it back on and started cleaning. I used a cotton swab and first dipped it into vinegar essence. The vinegar essence neutralizes the battery acid, so if you hear it sizzling, yeah, it reacts with it and starts to neutralize it. Yeah, after that I dried everything up and took another cotton swab and dipped this one into isopropanol. It's like a high-dose cleaning alcohol, and I used it to rub the rust on the metal contact spiral and rests of the vinegar stuff and the battery acid until almost nothing got stuck to the cotton buds anymore. So that took me a while. You also have to be careful not to do the whole thing too roughly, otherwise there is a risk of accidentally breaking off the spiral when it has already very badly corroded or if you bending it too much. Okay, next I sprayed a rust remover onto the contact. You have to be very careful with such small things that you don't spray too much in. Otherwise everything will get into the electronics later on and you don't want that. If you want to be absolutely safe, you could alternatively also take a thin cloth, spray it all over with the rust remover and then place it over the metal spiral. After that you can probably no longer use the cloth for other stuff, but yeah, that might work as well. Or you soak a cotton swab with the stuff. but you may not be able to get to all the places, and it could take you even longer to get rid of all the rust. After some exposure time, I dabbed everything out with a dry cotton swab as far as I could. And finally, after that, I took isopropanol again and removed everything from the rust from the device until there was no more rust or other dirt there anymore. And before I even think to put new batteries in, I wiped the entire doll stand, including the pink ribbon, with a hygienic cloth to remove all traces of acid and cleaning agent and other stuff. So, next up is the doll itself. It has been in a creepy box at the flea market and sticks to every nook and cranny. In addition, her hair also urgently needs to be washed and detangled. So for this, she has to leave all her clothes and I have to destroy the remains of her hairstyle. I also tried to take off her shoes, but in the end I decided against it, because they are made of very thin rubber strips that have lost their elasticity over the years, and yeah, as already mentioned, I was afraid I would break them if I took them off. There is still the possibility to make the shoes more elastic again by dipping them into very hot or even boiling water, but with such a thin material, I would only recommend it in an emergency situation. I could imagine that they may melt or that they could even break easier after that treatment. So yeah, I don't think that I would recommend it for this material at all. And since the shoes are open at the front and air can actually get in at all points so that the water can evaporate, I decided to simply leave them on. Okay, next I washed the clothes first. I used ordinary hand soap for that. I also always wear gloves when washing because it takes longer than it may appear in the video and my hands would otherwise become very dry and irritated from the water and soap. Yeah, I also don't like it very much when my hands are sticky. So yeah, that's the reason why I always wear gloves when I restyle my dolls, if you ever wondered why. Okay, next, the doll itself. Before I start washing her, I take a close look again to see if I might have forgotten something in her hair, such as small scraps of hair ties or leftover threads or something like that. Yeah, and if I don't see anything like that, I first hold the doll completely underwater and put it aside. Then I take a dishcloth, wet it and soak it in hand soap. And so I lather the whole doll. As soon as I have done that, I take ordinary hair shampoo and then work it thoroughly into her hair. And I always try to not knead in more knots than are already there. It might help if you use a shampoo that is for extra dry hair. After that, I washed out the shampoo and put a good amount of conditioner into it. You could take any conditioner for that. It is just important that the hair is still quite saturated with water before you start brushing. So in the next step, I try to brush out all the knots from bottom to top while the conditioner is still in the hair, and always in small steps. So for this, I used a plastic brush that usually comes with Monster High dolls. Yeah, and as soon as I encounter resistance while brushing, because there is a knot, I don't pull it, but pull the brush out again and go into another spot. And then I pull again a little bit until resistance arises again, pull the brush out again, and then go back in. Yeah, and that's how I do it until all the knots are brushed out. So with this way of doing it, I managed to ensure that the doll loses as little hair as possible. So the secret to don't lose much hair is to not rip everything out. So just stop if you have resistance and try it at another point. So don't get too harsh. And slowly but steady, the knots are going to get out, just because of the help of some pulling and of the conditioner. Yeah, well, once all the knots are out, I wash the conditioner out again and also wash off the soap off the doll's body. Yeah, and then I comb through the hair again, and finally I can put her on a towel to dry. If you're wondering what's up with the other dolls, I'll make a separate video with them. Yeah, and the next day I could start to restyle her. But before I started styling the hair, I had to put her clothes back on. Otherwise, the hairstyle would get messed up again later if I do it later. So yeah, it can be quite tricky if you put the top back on. You don't just put it from the front because you have this weird big loop in the front that seems way too long. I tried to tie the whole thing together like a pretzel. Well, it looks kind of cute. Yeah, but after I pulled her skirt over the shoes, I didn't like it that much anymore, so I tried again properly as originally intended. I'll show it again briefly. Well, I first made the mistake of closing the upper part from the front as the first step. You shouldn't have that big loop in the front. Instead, you undo the upper part at the top of the closure and first put the long blue ribbon behind the back. Then you close the upper part at the top with the Velcro behind the neck. Yeah, and after that you can cross the rest of the blue ribbon at the front and finally close it again at the back with the other Velcro. So it looks like this in the end. Next, I brushed her hair again so that everything looks fluffy, and then I wet everything again with a small spray bottle. I could have tried to style the hair when it was fluffed up, but that is more difficult, so moisten again. I'm trying to recreate her original hairdo to some extent, but I still want to bring in a little change of my own. So her ponytail should come back in and the two front strands should be back too. Okay, I'll try to part the hair first. For the two front strands, however, I used more hair than originally intended. So as soon as I was happy with the amount I had divided off, I rolled the front strands onto mini curlers. Actually, Stella has very straight hair, but I think that curls could suit her very well. The hair strands that were twisted into each other to hide the hair tie of the ponytail became wavy again as soon as they got wet again, so I could easily find them to separate them again. So I could easily restore the original hairstyle. And that's what it looked like, all separated. After that, I took a new rubber band and tied a regular ponytail. Yeah, and then I took the two outer wavy strands of hair and wrapped them around each other again above the ponytail. Then it got a bit tricky. I wrapped the twisted strands of hair around the rubber band and tied them together with the lower strand of hair and additionally with another small strand of hair from the ponytail with another hair tie very close to the head. Yeah, and the hair from the ponytail is going to hide this hair tie because it hangs right over it. Okay, the hardest part is done. Now I just twisted all the hair from the ponytail into curlers like the two front strands. So it all looked like this. Since I want her to have lasting curls, I prepared a bowl of boiling water and another bowl of colder water as a next step. I then held the sections of hair with the mini curlers into the boiling water for 1 to 2 minutes. Then I dipped them into the cold water to cool them down. If I wouldn't do the cold water, it might happen that the hair gets frizzy. And so that Stella is not so alone, Operetta gives her some company. I then gave her 2 days to dry completely before I removed the curlers. To loosen up the curls a bit, I separated each strand individually with my fingers. And to give the hairstyle the final touch, I used some anti-frizz lotion. This is kind of a remedy against flaying baby hair that is also used on humans, so this will help to hold the hair in place, while also adding some length to the curls. And it also smells pretty good. Yeah, and then I worked the stuff into her hair until I'm satisfied with the result. If I had wanted to, I could have threaded the hair back through the thin loops that were provided directly onto the head. I would have wrapped the strands around a very fine crochet hook and then pulled them through. But I like it way better the way I did it now. Okay, now that everything is finished, let's have a look if the wings work again and how everything looks together. If you are sensitive to light, be warned, the wings do flash colorful. So if you don't take it well, fast forward the next 1 minute and 30 seconds. And this is what she looks like in her doll stand now. I think she looks far better than before. She now lives on my bookshelf next to some Lalaloopsy ponies and my Polly Pocket clock. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you like what you've seen. Have a nice day and till the next one.